Hello, test subjects. If you've been sneaking around the new Caustic Treatment as much as I have, then you might have come across Caustic's private lab and his diabolical master plan for his super-toxin. And so, with a new landing pad having just been added to the firing range, complete with its own big red teaser button, it seems that the story of Season 8 is truly seeping into the game itself, so we might have some work to do. First then, let's listen to Caustic's master plan and see what he has in store for us.
Just a few modifications, and this plentitude of gas has the potential to expand my field experiments well beyond this trite game. A larger sample size, such as Solace City, would yield more reliable, compelling results. The only snag is Maldera, but let him find me. Now that Miss Paquette knows the truth, this charade has lost its luster.
So, Caustic wants to gas the entirety of Solace City to get better results for his testing. Which is definitely a way of raising the stakes, right? This impacts a bunch of our central characters, such as Mirage because of his bar and his mum, Gibraltar and his family, and Rampart's current home at the Paradise Lounge. Never mind the sort of greater impact that this is going to have, which really makes Caustic a strong supporting antagonist to this Season 8 story, bouncing off Maggie's antics. But, at this point, I think we need to be given a bit more understanding of what Caustic's research is aiming for, what his obsession with death is actually about, to maybe make this less of a sort of black and white moral dilemma. Is it just pure fascination and he's become a sociopath over time? That's fine, but I think it'd be good to have us at least understand why he's become that way rather than just having it be so, right? You then do get into sort of ideas of what if he's trying to prolong his own life or cure death in some way. Understanding it will allow you to reverse it, theoretically. This then at least adds a further moral nuance to why he's doing what he's doing. It then also depends on what the gas ends up doing in itself. Whether he actually gains something beneficial from actually killing all these people, or whether he provides something of benefit by doing it, whether it strengthens everybody's immune systems, or prolongs their lifespans, or cures them of diseases, or some other thing like that that the gas may not have been initially intended for, or that we don't think it's initially intended for. Or obviously raising the question like, what is it worth sacrificing to potentially obtain the secrets to immortality? Yeah, difficult question to ask, I suppose. But that's where I could see us getting involved as players during this event, where we could get some kind of choice as whether to sabotage Caustic's plans by altering the toxin or destroying some sort of piping system, or it could be something that we're a bit more sort of funneled into to just set up the new situation for the second round of comics coming March 30th. But I think a more likely way that we ourselves could get involved with this event would be through Caustic's only snag, Victor Maldera, ex-detective as we first met in Fight Night. I'm pretty confident that the landing pad that's been put in the firing range is going to be used for us to meet Maldera, and he's going to ask us to maybe gather toxin samples from either Caustic Treatment or the few locations we found the teasers up along Kings Canyon, which could give him the proof to try and bring down Caustic using the greater arm of the law that exists. Obviously, if he's not able to do that, it might suggest that he's leading into becoming a legend so that he can try and bring Caustic down from the inside. But that sort of situation is a lot easier to resolve than, say, Loba and Revenant, who have very strong reasoning for not killing each other despite wanting to. If you put Maldera in the games alongside Caustic, they're both just probably gonna kill each other. Then that's over, so I don't think it's gonna work exactly that way. Again, they're setting Caustic up as this big sort of pure evil with this event thus far. I think that Maldera actually giving us a bit more insight on what he's trying to do and what we actually learn about the toxin from maybe gathering him samples could give us a bit of a better insight into what Caustic's actually after. He does also say that now that Wattson knows the truth, that his charade has lost its luster, which, does that mean he's going to publicly admit that he's Alexander Knox, or maybe it's just more that he was using Wattson as like a pawn in his game, as, oh yeah, this is someone who does understand me on a personal level. I'm not a total monster, despite all his other actions towards it, right? It'd obviously be a bit more nuanced if this was the result of him losing the last actual sort of personal connection he had. Again, could be a nice insight into Caustic's mindset about why he's doing what he's doing. But sort of despite all that, we do have sort of a bigger problem, and the other sort of side of this two-pronged villainous approach to Season 8, Mad Maggie. Maggie might actually like what Caustic is going to do here. Although you could argue she might draw the line at attacking purely civilian populations for no greater sort of societal gain, which she would have felt she was doing by attacking the games at Fuse's opening show, despite putting civilians at risk, right? She was attacking the games and the legends predominantly, and she obviously considered civilian lives sort of worth that risk to retain the sort of independence of her home planet, right? So I think we've got kind of a nice situation here where Maggie can serve either as an ally to Caustic and they team up to sort of act out against the Syndicate, or you could have her sort of using this arc to set her up as a more understandable character, again, even if she's not totally redeemable. Which could set her up to be a potential legend, like Maldera and Maggie are looking like they're getting some support in that direction at the moment, but I wouldn't be too sure. As for one, Maldera doesn't seem to exactly be legend material from what we knew him as. Some development on that would obviously be pretty interesting. And Maggie becoming a legend seems to just sort of go against her whole point. Joining the games, even to try and bring them down from the inside again, probably just isn't gonna work and kind of goes against her whole shtick that being part of the games makes her a syndicate dog, in her own words, right? I just don't think that that's something that could really happen. So I think that gives us a nice, at least, balance between the two, where Maggie can still work as this strong supporting character, as can Maldera, and whether either of them are in alliance or conflict with Caustic can shape the story in quite huge directions from here. Obviously, that, I think, is the sort of determining point as to the future of this story. So, learning how Maldera wants to get involved here will obviously be pretty useful, and perhaps having Mad Maggie be the one to show up at the firing range could give us a bit more insight that she's willing to bargain. Again, she could even give us the offer there to bring Fuse's arm to her, which could set up further factions within the legends themselves based on who of Maggie, Maldera or Caustic they'd want to ally with or work against. And as much as I obviously want Ash to be the new legend for Season 9, she can kind of turn up whenever. With the sort of build-up that Maggie and Maldera are sort of getting around now, I don't think either of them are destined to become legends, but they're definitely ones to keep an eye on, and they could be best served, as they've been used thus far, as supporting characters. As I mentioned in my last video, this teaser does seem to again give a bit more weight to the idea that Wattson is going to get involved in the second round of comics, whether that's to try and rekindle some sort of actual personal connection with Caustic, or to kind of step out and actually act against him in a more direct manner. Same with Maggie. Having messed with the ring, I think is going to bring Wattson into things with a bit of an attitude, and Caustic's whole shtick right now isn't going to make that any better. But again, obviously giving either or both of those characters a bit more depth and moral nuance surrounding this situation could go a long way in the terms of stories we could be telling over the next few seasons, or even the kind of legends we end up seeing. Finally, just one or two extra little lore details that are hidden in this Caustic teaser. The map that shows us Solace City and King's Canyon also shows us a few other locations that we learn a little about in Pathfinder's quest. Eelhead Cape, very simply, is where Wattson grew up before moving to King's Canyon, and seemingly in Wraith's original dimension was a landmass that extended between the Cape and King's Canyon, turning it into a peninsula. Just a little thing to highlight how some of the differences in those two worlds emerged. And finally, a name you might actually recognise from the Season 7 comics, Little Mouse. Little Mouse, as Pathfinder's quest tells us, was the first settlement founded on Solace, around 400 years ago, named after the experiences of Makoa Gibraltar's distant relative, Pio Gibraltar, who found his own sense of solace in the unconditional compassion of a stowaway space mouse, which allowed the explorers of the time to actually survive their mentally strenuous journey to this new planet. Nothing massive, literally Little Mouse, but a few just nice little details you might not have been aware of if you haven't read the new lore book. But with that, I think that's everything generally to cover with this new Caustic teaser, except that I'm pretty sure more's going to develop from this pretty damn soon. So keep your eyes peeled and let me know what you think is going to happen with Caustic, Maggie and Maldera, and probably Wattson, by the end of Season 8 down below. Because that's all from me for today. Thank you for staying with me, friends. I've been Euclidean Vision, the emotional support. Take care of yourselves out there, teammates, and may the glorious light of Beskil shine within you. Bye-bye.
Ooh.